And so we'll take a look at the agenda here. And so Jane sent out the minutes from the previous meeting. Are there any additions or correction to those minutes?
I see none.
No.
Move they be accepted.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded that the minutes be approved. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, the same. So they're fine. You do a nice job with minutes, Jane.
Thank you.
She does.
The next item on the agenda is resident directory update. We have a couple of issues that we still have to sort of resolve. They've been sending me updated list from the office here of any changes. And that's easy, that makes it easy for me to change whatever needs to be changed on the website, on the in the directory. A couple of issues that John has brought up is that the let me change this. Is that when they sent out the letters in July or late June for the new maintenance fees, they got 83 returns or something
Something like
to
that.
that matter along those lines. So they had either addresses that were incorrect, or I think it was also very possible that they had addresses that might not, they might have been an address here at Wildewood and it wasn't forwarded. And I don't know, do you have your address, do you have mail forwarded, Jane?
No, I
It's,
don't.
it's not easy to do, actually. And I know that somebody told me that after a certain period of time, the post office here won't forward stuff. And so be able to.
I actually just lock up I put a piece of tape over the thing with a note saying back in September or back in November or whatever. I don't trust that the two countries will cooperate in forwarding mail. So my experience has been that they don't cooperate. And so I'm happy to not have anything forwarded, and the office certainly has my Toronto address.
Well,
I don't know.
I think
I don't know.
that's at least one of the issues, is that some of the addresses the office has were evidently not working right. And so I think they're working on trying to address that issue. And one of the questions that came up at the board meeting was, you know, do we keep that alternate or that other address on the in the resident directory? And at the present time, what we have in the profile is an alternate address. We have a Wildewood address and an alternate address, but we don't require the alternate address to be filled out. And so therefore our information on the website is not complete as far as addresses go. And so the question would be, should we try to push people in that direction, where they would fill out that alternate address. And we could put a question on the profile, which address do you prefer mailings to go to? Which is also a question or a thing on the census form.
Yeah.
And so we pointed that out that, you know, the census form may be the best way for both the office and the website to update information. But we don't get anywhere near 100% of the census forms back. So I think one of the things that we want to emphasize is that the census form is an important form for all owners to file or to look at and update every year. And so I think one of the things that I was hoping to do in the newsletter, the fall newsletter, would be to present that argument that we really need people to fill out the census forms. But what do you think about putting more information in the resident directory, including a preferred mailing address?
That's what's on the census form.
Yes,
There's a box to check.
yes,
And I think that the board is leaning towards requiring all residents to provide their official address based on what's on their driver's license to the office for mailings. So, yeah, I like that idea, and I guess I thought it was there.
well, the address is there, the alternate address is there. In fact, there's one thing I don't think we need to necessarily keep in that profile, and that is the company that somebody might be working for.
Yeah, I don't
I'm
see where that
I'm
has
not
any-
sure that's valuable information
No.
to us. But I do think that one of the issues, and we've had this issue with other changes that we've made to the profile, and that is we can send out a blanket email that says, we've added a second email address to the profile. Would you take a look at that, add it, put something in there if you want to? But we aren't going to get anywhere near 100% compliance. People, I think another thing that I will try to do in the newsletter piece that we do for the IT committee is give us a short tutorial on how to change something in your profile. Because I don't think people really know how to do that.
That could be true.
And so I think that if we want to make that alternate address important for our directory, then we should probably do some explanation of how people can go back in and add information there. Because at this point, I'm not sure how many people will actually do it.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. The other thing, I wish there was a way that we could explain that when that email comes out that says do not reply, it's a good legitimate email, because we have at least one director that refuses to open those because he thinks it's all a scam.
Well,
Even though it says do not reply Wildwood Springs, he just will not open it. So if other people are ignoring that email because of what it says, and yet, you know, I get half a dozen of those from all the doctor's offices.
Yeah,
I mean, so
yeah.
many people use that because they don't want a bunch of stuff coming back, especially when they do a mass email.
right. No, I was, I think I've convinced that board member that it's
He's one of your
okay.
neighbors, isn't
I
he?
know.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was surprised when he brought that up, that he didn't want to open it because it said no reply. So we will, that's a good thing to do, to explain that that's normal way of sending out emails
blanket
that are
email,
blanket, yeah. And so here's a couple other things related to this. And one is, do you think, I actually don't know, and really don't have a real good way of, I guess I could figure out a way to maybe figure this out. I don't know how many owners we don't have in the directory,
Okay.
who simply chose not to ask for a website account,
Mhm.
because that's pretty much the only way we get people in onto the website directory,
Right.
is that they choose to have an account. And I guess the question would be, should we ask the office that when a new owner comes in and gets approved, that we have the office put them into the directory?
I wonder if we could have a single page document that would go in the packet
Right,
that John gives out that says, here's one of the first things you need to do. You need to go and register
right,
for our directory or for our website and get signed up so that you can be communicated with. And that would be something that they would have to go and do along with all the other paperwork that they give them. Now, you could say it'll get lost in all the paperwork, but I'm just thinking if we gave them some steps on a piece of paper, here's what you need to do. Here's where you go, here's what you request. Maybe that would help with new owners.
yeah,
Just
I
a-
think
another thought.
that is a good step. And I would say that these days, most new owners want to be on the website, want an account. And in fact, we often get new owners that ask for an account before they're actually approved. And we do not approve them as getting an account until the office says it's a done deal. It's not a bad idea, though, to put something in there about you have to go to the website, you have to ask for an account.
Here's what you do
Yeah.
to receive communications from
Yeah.
the association.
Right.
Yeah, I think
Right.
that's a good suggestion.
Okay, I think that is a good one.
It can be a simple, just a few lines of what they have to do to get into the website and make the request.
I agree, because it doesn't rely on somebody else's having to remember to tell the people.
Right, right. That's a good point.
Or to add onto somebody else's plate additional work to load them into the system.
So it would be part of a new owner packet.
So is this different than the census form?
Well,
I mean,
I'm
it
not-
sounds like the census form could be part of a new owner packet.
yeah.
Along with an explanation
I think they both could be.
Yeah.
Because the census form doesn't say anything about getting an account.
Right, to go to the website.
Right.
It doesn't.
Yeah, it's a tricky problem because owners are legally required to provide the association with the address that they would like to receive information from the association. And the association has a statutory responsibility to maintain the
Right.
master list
That's
of
right.
owners. So the directory and the website, all of that is owner opt-in, as
Right.
in owner optional.
Right,
It's all optional.
Mhm.
And yet, to your point, Roger, to help manage the workflow, the more owners we can get to opt in and say, I would like to receive association information via email, the easier the front office job gets when
Right.
it comes to annual meetings and board board meetings, etc. So there is some commingling in an environment where really commingling of these two lists and should be at least, really watched carefully. And what happens if we don't is, well, we've already got an example of what happens when we don't.
Right.
We have 84 rejects. And those rejects, my own personal opinion is that those 84 rejects need to be managed by the front office one by one by one by one
Mhm.
until they're cleared up.
Right.
and I think they're taking that on, yes. Their list of owners that they've sent to me in the recent month 2 months is much better than their previous one. I think they went to the auditors, they went to a Manatee County website to find who's the official owner.
Terrific.
And so their list is,
So they're getting there.
yeah, it's really better.
All right.
Yeah, and from everything I've seen, because I was searching for one yesterday, you can't get any of that information for free anymore.
Yeah,
You have to pay $1 to start with. And then once you pay that $1, it comes back and says, oh, well, we can give you all of this for $9. You gotta be kidding me. They keep adding it on, you know. So I just left it with the $1
uh-huh.
and I got my report for a completely different property than the address that I searched. Totally different.
And they're not gonna refund you.
No, it says contact customer service for a refund. Can you find a phone number for customer service? No. No, I agree, Chris. We need to work on keeping the office engaged and keeping that list as accurate as they
Yeah,
possibly can.
And anything we can do to help, I mean, is a good idea. I don't think. I think it can be confusing to the office because of the fact that they may often have a mailing address that is not in Bradenton. It's wherever people, you know, Jane's in Ontario. But when you're here and the mailings come out in January for the annual meeting, you probably would prefer to have it mailed here rather than going to Ontario and having to
And
be
that
forwarded
is
back,
the-
you know, back to you.
That is the essence of an explanatory article that should be in the newsletter. That we have two lists in our association. One is an official list that owners, it's a mandatory element. They must be part of this master list. It's in the office. We have a second list that is all opt-in and optional. It's web-based, including our directory. And the third element is that if you would like to have official information about the association mailed to you at the Wildewood unit, then you need to make a very specific request for
Yeah,
that
yeah.
using our annual census form.
Yeah, it's very difficult though for somebody who is here half the time to decide which address should be their mailing.
Mhm.
Not, well, I don't agree with that. I don't think it's difficult at all. When you're here, you'd like to get the mail here. When you're not here, you probably like to get the mail at your permanent address. I'm not so sure. It's what's difficult about it is the discipline to actually execute the change order, if you will, to communicate to the front office, effective so-and-so, push the stuff back up north to me, please.
Yeah.
And that's where things are getting lost in translation because people are not, and part of the problem is that the census form is potentially a once a year exercise. And does the census form have two separate dates? I'd like to receive mail up north from so-and-so month to so-and-so month, and then I'd like to receive information at my unit from so-and-so month to so-and-so month. I don't know if it does or not, but specificity is the order of the day when you're trying to get people to act a certain way.
Yep.
And it's not gonna get done with one article in the newsletter. It's gonna have to get done with several, pieces of reinforcing communication down the line here before we get people really rolling on this, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's possible, of course, for us to put in the census form the timelines for when you want it mailed here and when you want it mailed somewhere else.
Yeah, because then it can, because if you don't, then you're gonna have to get people to execute an additional fresh step on their own.
Right.
And maybe some people might, we can even encourage that with an asterisk. Because some people, well, a window, I don't know when, I'm not sure when I'm gonna come down. I don't know. I don't wanna.
Well, and that can change from year to year.
Sure it
so,
can, sure,
sure.
we have to, but as long as people do get the idea that, and the notion that, oh, okay, we're gonna drive down next week. So to try and make it automatic, you know, pack the car, close the house down, oh, and let the office know that we wanna change. So,
Jane, do you tell the office when you're leaving?
Do I?
Yeah,
No, because I just have everything come to Toronto.
yeah,
And, because as you've mentioned, every year it's different. In my case, I have to be ready to go back to Toronto at the drop of a hat.
sure.
You know, I have a plan, but I'm not sure that I'm going to adhere to that plan. I was told many years ago that the way to make it happen is to just pop into the office once I'm here and then pop in and say I'm leaving.
Yeah.
And they will change their asterisk or whatever for that time, for mailings that are going out during that time. For me, that actually would work, except that I don't do it anymore. I used to, but you know, it's one of those things I've just stopped doing.
Yeah, no, I think most people haven't been doing that.
so when you're down here, all of your association information gets mailed to Toronto?
That's right.
Okay,
And I rely on my neighbors to tell me if there's something I need to know. And then I go to the office and get a duplicate copy.
I see. Okay, that's your workaround.
Well, and we try, as I mentioned to the board meeting, we try to duplicate any mailing that goes out with an email.
Yes,
So if they're sending out documents for the annual meeting, we're gonna
yes.
send those out by email as well.
Well,
And it might be helpful for us, and I never thought about this. It might be helpful for us when we do that email to say, this is coming to you in a postal mailing as well.
Yeah, that was.
So that somebody would know that this is the same information that they're getting mailed to someplace up north. And that they
Yep.
need to necessarily have somebody send it to them. So I'll make a note of that. We only send out a couple of mailings a year.
Yeah, the annual meeting notice with the voting for new directors. is
Right.
a
People
required paper
can-
mailing.
People can notify that they want to run, and they can also then vote.
And the other time is is our budget meeting, is that right?
No,
Well, I don't know about that. I think people do get the budget before the board passes it.
oh, yes, you're right, you're right. But I don't know if it's required that be physically mailed, or if email could be acceptable. That answer I don't know. I do know the annual meeting and voting for directors is a required paper mailing.
And anything that we do that is involving an amendment,
Yes, that would
Is-
have to be a.
anything that's a change in our documents has got to be mailed.
Right.
So last year, when we were doing the thing for the insurance,
Yes,
that Marv and his group were trying to get passed, that had to be mailed. And that's when I realized, when I went around my neighborhood, the local clusters, and ran into people that didn't get the mailing.
mhm,
And at least some of them thought that it was supposed to be mailed to their Wildwood residents, because they don't have a northern residence anymore.
oh, okay.
And so if
Yeah.
it didn't show up, then something was wrong with our
And then they didn't
addresses.
communicate to the office that other address went away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They, I am going to send, I don't have an email for all of these, but the 47 people who've indicated that they want their profile hidden, I'm going to send out an email to all the ones that I have, and we probably have emails for 90 to 95% of them. Asking them to consider showing us their profile, going in and changing the profile. I'll try to be very specific of how they could do it. I don't expect a lot of people to change because of the privacy issues we have these days. I guess what the Social Security was administration was hacked into, and a lot of our information might be out there. So if somebody says, no, I don't want, and I actually did email one person already and said, you know, would you consider changing? They said no. But I think it's again worth trying to get people to show up in the directory. And I guess the main advantages are that your neighbors can contact you or can see your contact information, and they will also know who their neighbors are. Because a lot of times if you don't show them the directory, they may not know who you are.
And
So
some people like it that way.
exactly, some people do, and you know, we can't argue with that. I think that is actually a state statute that we can. I have to reread that. They made some changes to that. The association has some ability to be able to list some information. I think it's email addresses, but not necessarily phone numbers. Something like that. Does that sound right, Andrew?
I think so. I'll check.
So, I will get those out and at least ask people if they would be willing to consider a change there. So I do think that in general, there was one thing that was mentioned in the minutes about, we had a couple of people that I found were showing up on my administrative list, but not showing up in the resident directory if I went in as a regular user. I submitted that question, that issue to the support people, and they got back to me that they found the person I was looking for. And so when I went in and looked at my search, my criteria was wrong.
Oh, okay.
I was searching by property number, by unit number, and I was putting in the search property address and then putting the number in, and they weren't showing up. And as it turns out, I changed that. It doesn't say property address anymore. It says Wildewood address.
Okay.
So I changed it to Wildewood address and they show up.
Okay.
So it was just a matter of me doing a imprecise search.
Interesting.
And so it looks like everybody that said that they agree to show their profile, they should be showing up. And I did do a count. I went through where we have a filter for every village.
Mhm.
And I went through and just counted the number of email addresses we have for each village and totaled them. And the total for all 7 villages is 720 email addresses that we have. And so that would certainly include people that have
Double.
2, sure. My wife and I each have one, so it's not
Yeah, we do.
unusual. So that's why we would have more than 550.
Question on that, Chris. I did last week. I did do the search on the cluster and 2 additional unit numbers pop in that aren't in cluster B. One is in A and one is in C. How does that happen?
they put the wrong cluster in when they filled out their profile.
Okay,
And we have to keep an eye on that all the time. When I look at a new user, I go through very carefully and make sure that they have the right cluster, the right village, the right unit size, the right unit type. Because they often don't know. You know, it's not unusual for somebody to buy a unit in Palm Tree and say they're in cluster A. I mean,
Okay.
They just, that, for a new owner, that's pretty
Mhm.
confusing. I mean, it was for me. I didn't realize I was in cluster R for years. It took me a while. So, it's one of those that whenever we take a look at a user, we try to make sure that information is correct.
and you can change that as
Yes,
administrator, right?
I can make those changes in the administrative area. Anything else that we should discuss as far as the directory goes? Again, I think in general, I've been getting, updates from the office and I've been removing, users that have sold. And in the past, sometimes it took us a while to do that.
Mhm.
Sometimes we didn't do it until the beginning of next year. But at this point, if I see somebody coming in as an owner of a unit, I look at who else was on that unit and I get rid of anybody that's not the new owner. I still have to take a look at renters. And I know that I asked the office if we had a renter list and they didn't really know for sure. I don't think if we do have one, it's up to date.
And it's probably difficult. There's one unit in cluster B where I am that has short-term rentals. Sometimes 3 times a year, there's 3 different people in
Right.
there for 3 months at a time.
Right. And a lot of renters do not apply for a website account.
Right.
And in fact, I just went to Liberty Bank up here to get a safety deposit box. And the woman who waited on us lives in Woodlawn. She lives in Debbie Dial's old unit,
Okay.
or she's renting Debbie
Renting
Dial's
Debbie
old
Dial's,
unit.
okay.
And so I said, well, you can get on the website, but she hasn't yet, so we'll see. A lot of renters don't. The more typical ones would be the annual renters. People that have been renting here for a while.
Yeah, and they come back every year.
Yeah.
For 3, 4, 5, whatever months.
Yeah. Our next item would be Zoom meeting issues. I think, we've gotten better at the office meetings. We still have occasional, blips. The last board meeting, which wasn't that long ago, I had one person on Zoom who claimed they couldn't hear. But everybody else on Zoom seemed to be hearing fine.
But if you remember at that meeting, it took, can't think of his name, but the one board member who came in and we couldn't hear him. And he ended up having to go off and come back on, remember?
Yes, that was Gus. I think.
Gus.
Yeah,
Yes, Gus.
Yeah.
That he was there and we could see him, he could see us, but there was no verbal.
there was some sound issues on his end.
Yeah.
And I suggested it was Pam that was having trouble hearing, and I suggested that it might be her system. And she goes, no, I have my sound at maximum. And so I don't know, because nobody else on Zoom complained about it. So you almost have to say, well, there's something going on with her system. And there's not much we can do to address that. Because we were using this microphone and these speakers. And the only drawback, the one drawback with these speakers is that they have to be fairly close to the computer. Because of the, we could get a longer sound headphone cord, which might be helpful. I mean, because otherwise we have to keep them fairly close to this. And they also have to plug in.
Have power.
Yeah, so we have, but that can be addressed with a,
Sure.
with a extended cord. So I think that we'll have to certainly check to see what's going on at the church in October. And so we'll definitely want to get together and have a test.
Brush up on our skills.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and that would be a great place to really have longer
right,
cord for
right,
those speakers, so they
right.
could be out on the director's tables.
yes,
One on each side, farther away,
yes,
would be very beneficial, or as far as they'll stretch in the middle,
right,
and then come back to the computer. That would be helpful. I'm working on seeing if we can get some sound. I don't want to say sound barriers, but sound absorbing units put in that room
ah,
to eliminate the
Little-
echo.
A little bit of baffling.
Yes, yes. And our new technology guy, Sean, he and I talked about that a couple of weeks ago, and I'm gonna sit down with him because he said he could do it. We don't have to hire it done like we did in the sanctuary. It cost us, I think, $40,000 to have those panels put up
wow,
in the sanctuary around on the walls. And he says, well, I can do that. I know how to do that. I said, well, okay, then let's sit down and figure out when you're gonna do it. But
so would it be movable panels?
I don't know. There would definitely be panels on the walls,
Oh, okay,
like in the other building. But I'm thinking that perhaps there should be some that hang in the middle. But I don't know what his thoughts are, but
uh-huh,
definitely an echo. He recognizes it. It doesn't matter how full that room is, there is an echo.
yeah,
So to get rid of that echo, we need the sound absorbing cushions.
well, that would make the room better for any event,
That's right, and that's right.
Any
That's
event.
what I've talked with him about.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we're looking at, well, what do we do? Do we want to renovate this room in some other way? Do we want to have it repainted and do that first? Do we want to do something with the flooring first? You know, what are the steps and what are the priorities?
right.
Especially when we're running negative cash flow right now.
Well, anything that you would do to improve would certainly be helpful. I find myself, with my hearing aid and hearing issues, restaurants can be really, really a problem. I mean, some of them
So
have
much background
ceilings
noise.
that are too high and you get lots of noise, and I have a setting that I can sort of mute some of the external noise, but it doesn't really help all
I have
that
one of
much.
those settings too for being in a restaurant. It doesn't work all that well.
No. So, okay, well, we'll definitely plan on and doing some test run before we get to the October meeting. The next item would be a couple of purchases. One would be this a tripod. The tripod I looked at cost $18.49. And it has, like I say, it has this nice little feature that would allow us to attach a camera to it very easily, or a phone. So I would entertain a motion to purchase that.
On motion.
Second?
Second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
I
Aye.
Opposed? No, same sign. And so that passes. The other item which we have is a laptop. And I did a lot of searching for laptops. And I found I haven't found anything really as satisfactory as I would like at this point. So not quite ready to make a recommendation. The criteria, the filters I used were a 17-inch laptop with 64 gigs of RAM. The issue with Amazon is that the ones that are available range anywhere from, like you can see here, 700 all the way up. You will find them up in the $4,000 to $5,000 range, which are primarily gaming computers. But it's interesting that when I went to look for this same criteria, just in general, at other stores, not Amazon, nobody has 64 gigs. They really don't want to make them anymore with 64. They want to make them with 8 and 16 and 32. But it was hard to find. I tried Best Buy. I tried CDW. I tried, what's it called? Next Egg. There's a bunch of places I tried, and none of them had much in the way of 64 gigs, unless they were getting up into the $2,000 or $3,000 or $4,000 range, which I don't think we want to spend that kind of money.
Did you try Dell?
I didn't try Dell's website. I
Okay.
tried HP's website, and HP was really a lousy website. They were only offering, for the most part, 16-inch laptops, and almost all of them were 32 at the most. So they didn't have much to offer in the 64 range. So and I'm pretty convinced that we want the 64.
Oh, yeah.
I really am. I think it's just when we start plugging a lot of stuff into a laptop that we're going to be using at a meeting, more RAM is always helpful. If you look, this computer I have, I'm using 35% of the memory, and it's almost all being used by Chrome and by Edge. And the CPU is still, Zoom is taking up a bunch of CPU. So I haven't worried too much about CPU speed, because almost all of the ones that we're looking at have a fast. They either have an Intel that's pretty fast, usually up to 5. I'm trying to think of what the
What
statistic is.
Yeah,
It's megabits per second, I think. Anyway, or this AMD processor they claim they beat Intel's. So both of them are fast. So I'm not concerned too much about that. I am sort of looking for, let me know what you think about this. Should we have a fingerprint key in? I mean, that way we could put anybody that's a member of the committee, put their fingerprint in, and they wouldn't have to, they could log in with their fingerprint.
If it can hold multiple fingerprints, that would be a good idea. but I don't know. what
Yeah,
the process
I
is.
don't know for sure either. I've never used one.
It's like Face ID on your phone.
Yeah.
They only want one face. You can't share that with somebody else.
Well, I can find that out, and it's not critical. I do think that I
I
have,
do know, sorry,
oh, no, please go ahead.
I do know that my iPad uses fingerprint technology.
Uh-huh,
And the minute your fingerprint isn't perfect, like you have cream on your hand or something, or peanut butter, which is my problem, it doesn't work.
I can imagine.
For whatever reason, my left fingerprint doesn't work, but my right one does.
Uh-huh,
So I end up having to, switch everything around in order to use my right finger. I don't think they're real. My thoughts are that they're not reliable enough.
okay,
I would prefer to see, some sort of login and password
yes,
situation. It's the same for a face thing, even if it did take several faces, the minute you change your glasses or don't have your glasses with you today, it doesn't recognize you.
yeah,
These things aren't perfect yet.
right.
My thoughts on the cost of the laptop in order to get the 64 gig RAM. I mean, maybe we have to readjust the budget and, start looking at more expensive machines.
Well, one of the ones I've seen, is this one's here is about 1280, and there's one about 1400. Those would still fit into this year's budget,
Yeah,
I think. So I think that we should be able to maybe find a pretty good machine in that would still fit in our budget this year.
I just think we have to guard against, cheaper is not always better.
That's right. No, and one of the problems I've run into with looking at Amazon is that you get some sellers on Amazon that I don't know if I trust.
Whoa, yes.
There's, for example, there was a seller that's only sold 4 machines. And so they don't have much of feedback, but the feedback usually isn't perfect. So.
And where does that guy live?
Yes, right. And
Which continent does he
uses a
live on?
computer for. So, here's one that only has 2 reviews. And they're, so I just, I would prefer to buy it from a Best Buy or
Yes.
place like that, but I haven't been able to find the one that would have the right criteria in it. But if we must buy it from Amazon, I think we just have to, we may want to make sure that we buy an extended warranty.
Yep.
I think that for a computer that is going to belong to the association
I
here,
agree, yeah.
it's probably wise to do that. We used to do that when I was at the community college. That was mandatory. That any equipment that got bought, it was always had a couple years protection on it.
Well, it behooves us to do our due diligence because we're not buying it for ourselves.
Right.
We're buying it for the committee, and it's not our money.
Right.
I mean, we need to make sure that it's a good machine with good backup and good warranty and comes from a reputable place that we can go back to if there is a problem.
Exactly. One of the things that some of them are including is here's one that has a lifetime Microsoft Office. Now, I haven't checked with John to see if the license we have for Office would include another machine or not.
Yeah.
I have to check that out first.
Check that out.
But if it doesn't, then having a lifetime Office might be worth considering.
Yeah.
And so there's some little things like that differentiate between some of these. But I'm looking for primarily one that has a lot of positive ratings. If it has a 5-star rating, I would certainly start to lean more towards something like that.
Not the first place you think of for laptops, but if you're, in your travels. If you've been to Best Buy already, that's good, but you might as well stop by Office Depot and,
Staples, Office
Staples,
Depot,
what's going on.
even Walmart.
yeah. Whatever place we can actually put the unit in a car and drive to
Right,
if there's a problem.
right. No, I agree.
Okay.
I agree. In fact, when I looked at Best Buy, I looked online. And so it's possible if I went to the store, they might be able to say, oh, we can order that.
They do have a lot of them on display. I just bought one, 2 weeks ago, or a week ago. A new one, and I got a 17-inch screen, Lavono.
Yeah,
However you say it.
that used to be IBM.
Okay, that's what he told me. I liked it a whole lot better than the HP.
Uh-huh,
I do have an HP right now, but price-wise, the compatible HP to what I have only has a 15 or 13-inch screen.
yeah.
So I was looking for the bigger screen, and I didn't need a whole lot of RAM, so I, got out of it for not a
Sure,
whole lot of money. I spent $800, I think. But they have lots of them on display there with a variety of different configurations.
where at?
With, up here at the Best Buy.
At Best Buy,
Yeah.
sure,
I guess I would suggest you go in and at least look.
yeah.
I mean, and they've got them $3,000-4,000, no question about
Oh,
it.
yeah,
And I really wasn't looking for 64
right,
RAM,
right.
but, who knows?
Well, again, if they don't have one, there's no reason they can't order one,
That's possible.
But it's interesting to know that, the three main companies for this level would be HP, Lenovo, and Dell. Those three for Microsoft-based computers.
Right.
Would be the ones that you want to take a look at. I just went to Philadelphia last weekend for a wedding, and I packed this laptop into my checked bag, and I have a hard-sided checked bag.
Okay.
When I opened this up at the hotel room, it's starting to squeak along the hinge. And it never did that before. So I don't know what the hell they did, but somehow they've sort of damaged my computer. It was opened up both coming and going. My checked luggage had a piece of paper and it said, we've checked your luggage. So I don't know, but I never had this noise before when I was opening it up. So we have to be, that's happened to Kathy with Chromebooks a couple of times where the hinge breaks. So we'll keep looking. I will send out some possible choices.
I would hope that we can get this bought before the end of the year to
Yes.
use the budget.
Yeah, I would agree that I think we can. We have at the current rate amount of money left. We have about $1,400–1,500. So the next item would be talking about the budget. And I believe I have that right here. This is what I sent to you, you folks. And basically, I took last year's and just made changes. Just made, we had, for this year, we had an increase in the the website expense, well, they didn't increase it. We're still paying, I think we're actually paying $960 rather than even $965. But we had put in our budget, it might go up to $100. Well, it didn't. So, for this year, we still have, we still have plenty of room. This is our projected expense. And, the proposal that I'm suggesting for next year is to keep the website fee level and actually keep about the same amount for equipment and come in with a, why is it doing that? And come in with another $2,500 projection.
I think that's the right thing to do, is to keep it right now. There's going to be a lot of discussion and a lot of asking why, because I sit on the budget committee and there's already discussions about some of the operating departments requesting sizable increases.
Yeah.
And there's already going to be a sizable increase based on reserves. And I just don't think we want to be one that's going to exceed.
Right.
But that's another reason why I think we need to spend this year's.
Right.
To justify the 2,500 for next year, so that
Right.
we're showing we're within our range, and that's why we need that amount.
Well, and I would be, will be attending the next budget meeting when they're going to be discussing the different
Operations.
proposals. And I would try to assure the budget committee that we are going to spend pretty much our budget this year, and that's why we would like to have a similar budget next year. So I think it's a reasonable budget. I'd like to entertain a motion to accept this budget proposal.
I'd like to just add one comment first.
Sure.
And that is, I do not know what the software package is that the front office is using.
Right, right.
What I do know is that as of July 1st of this year, the Condo 3.0 laws that Governor DeSantis passed, he also passed a similar package of laws for HOAs that effective January 1, 2026, there will be a statutory requirement for associations to have available to owners a very extensive list of documents on the website. That list, I can get that list and circulate it to everyone here. We've got a pretty good start on that list, but we don't have it all. So I just bring this up from the standpoint and that's one element. There's another element of when an owner requests records from the association. The preferred response is going to be that the association direct the owner to the website to have access to a menu of items that adhere to the statutory requirement. And oh, by the way, the association is required to give the owner a checklist of documents or records not available or not pursuant to their request. So that the association will have to say, I know you asked for this, but this one we don't have, and we can't give you at this time. So basically, it's an upping of the transparency and of owner what's the word I'm looking for? It doesn't really matter. Just they're empowering owners for higher access to content. How all of that applies to our front office and the software that they use to manage these, to put these records in some kind of a format that is consistent, and then have it transported onto the web. what I've just described is work that has to happen next year. And with many associations, so so you put one foot in front of the next and you begin to get into that discussion of where is this association as it relates to digitizing the front office and the platforms. And,
Right.
and I don't know, that's a broader discussion. So I don't think everything that I said, I still back what Roger said, and I certainly would support keeping the budget where it is for 2025. But it's possible down the line, depending on how much, you get into that funny situation. How much does the IT committee actually assist the front office in the requirement that the front office, statutory requirement that the front office has to provide records to owners? And that's for discussion for another time.
Right.
But- Yeah.
There were some requirements that were passed several years ago that we had to put on the website, and in general, we were in fair compliance. The areas where we're weak, and it's really a matter of asking, and that is, we have to have any contract that the association has with an outside vendor needs to be posted. And we have pretty much got pretty much all those on there. But we're also supposed to have any quotes or estimates. And we don't usually have those. We don't usually get those. I don't ask for them like I probably should. But they usually aren't provided, and we don't usually put those on when they should be. I'm guessing those might be on the list.
Yeah, it's and I'll see what I have in my. I went to a couple of days of professional development a few weeks ago up in Leesburg, and I've got a couple of PowerPoints that summarize some of these laws, and there's going to be a heck of a lot more scanning of receipts. Because receipts and so records at the transactional level are something that owners are going to be entitled to look at if they request it. So the degree of specificity and granularity of records, association record availability beginning in 2026 is going to be quite something. So it just begs more conversation down the road. Again, I don't think it impacts this budget as we're discussing it right now, but it is something to keep an eye on in the future.
Yep, I agree. So can we have a motion to approve this proposed budget?
Yeah, I'll move to accept. Or
Is there a
to
second?
present that current budget as presented.
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Oppose? Motion carries. I did have a discussion with John about networking. And the issue was that he wanted to have documents on the laptop that he could then work from home. And I told him that, that's not my expertise anymore. I used to have some expertise in networking, but I don't really anymore. I told him to get a hold of Tom, the gentleman we've used for computer services here at the office, and that Tom could easily set up a network connection for the laptop, for his computer, and for the ones at the administrative assistant area, where they should be able to share documents. And at the present time, I don't think they do.
They could, I'm sure that he could set up for them a cloud server as opposed to each individual drive, and then they could access it from anywhere.
Right,
And he could use his laptop to access the cloud from home,
right,
or here in the office, they could both have access to the same stuff on the cloud as opposed to keeping it on the individual hard drives, which do periodically fail.
right. I keep all the website documents in a Google Drive.
Okay.
And that's my preference, but Microsoft has OneDrive, there's options there. But I would prefer to sort of have them have Tom come in and set that stuff up.
And, you know, as sad as it is, stuff gets lost
Yes,
when it's either on a hard drive or on a physical server. And I can tell you that from experience of what we've been going through for the last year down at the church. We can't find all kinds of stuff that supposedly was on the physical server. We moved everything we could find to a cloud-based server, but we just can't find all kinds of stuff that I know there's digital copies of, or there were,
right,
and where are they? They're lost on a hard drive someplace.
yeah. One of the things that we've run into is that on the website, we have a file area. And I've tried to organize that. And my organization may not be the same as somebody else's.
Right.
And so John the other day said, I put this document, I don't know, it was like minutes from one of the committees. I put it in there and I can't find it. And I looked and sure enough, he put it at this level instead of down at this level. And so organization of files is often very critical to where the heck they are.
Those placements mistakes
Yeah.
are gonna happen.
Yeah,
It happens to me.
yeah,
And when I think I just saved something, I go look for it. Where did it go? Why is it not where I put it? Well, because I didn't follow the path all the way
Exactly.
through to get it in the right place.
well,
Yeah.
I've done things by year. And we're now getting to the point where we have like 7 or 8 years in there. And to be quite honest, I'm tempted to now sort of move some of those old years into one place. Just because it's just getting a long list before I get down to 2024.
Yeah, statutorily, you're only required for 7. So
Yeah, you're probably right. We don't have to keep them quite that long.
anything 8+ years.
Yeah.
So.
I hate to get rid of stuff though.
Yeah,
I really do.
So,
And that's why we try to archive some of these things, and I'm way behind doing that.
With the potential to engage Tom in a networking exercise for the front office, you may need to continue to chat with John and Steve about that as it relates to the eventuality of it and the timing of it, because there may be a fee involved in him to do that. And where does that fee come from, the IT committee, or does that fee come from operations front office?
It's always come from front office.
Okay.
We've never had a bill from Tom.
All right.
And he set up the current computers they're using now.
All right.
The one thing that might be very useful though, would be for us to be able to access that cloud from a new computer that we buy.
No doubt.
And have access to the cloud.
Exactly,
If they put something like that together,
right,
yes,
right.
yes.
Yeah.
Again, it
And
would
the
help with
IT
sharing.
committee, I don't think it's unreasonable to suggest that it may be valuable for the IT committee members who wish to avail themselves of the training that the front office gets to get up and running, the onboarding of the new cloud network.
Yeah.
So.
No
You
doubt
have
about it.
to sell that concept first.
Right, and that's right back to my point. Who sells it? When does that get sold?
Right.
It seems like now is the time to do it because we're in budget season.
I did still want to run a sort of Zoom training meeting. A
Yes,
short one with Roger and Dan and anybody else really, because we were okay this last month, but it was
came close.
close. I actually started a meeting the morning I was flying out. And I turned the host over to John. And they finished the meeting.
Yeah.
And it got recorded and I was able to put the recording up and everything. But it would be helpful if either you or
It'd be
Dan
lovely to actually
were
try to
able
recruit
to run a
even a
meeting.
couple of people who are not members of the IT committee, but wouldn't mind doing some Zoom production.
Sure. Sure.
I don't know how we do that.
I
but
just
that's-
happened to be in another Zoom meeting at the same
Right.
time.
No,
on
I
the same
understand.
day.
No, we gotta find a good time. We also have had a request. Can't think of now. It was Pam Gallagher. To run, website classes again. To offer, basic computer, because she said that the person she had talked to really needs to start at, square one. So, we'll try to schedule those for the fall when we get more people back. And so I think that's about it. I have, for the next meeting, I'm going to be out of town. And so I was wondering if we could, perhaps, hold off on not having a meeting at the end of September. We could certainly have communication by email for any issues that come up, particular perhaps a purchase of a computer, a laptop. But other than that, I don't really expect, I don't anticipate any other issues. That doesn't mean we won't have some. Any other suggestions? I mean, I suppose we could try to have a meeting
A week earlier,
a week earlier, yeah.
when are you gonna be gone?
The last week of September
Okay,
and the first week of October.
so you would be here on the 20th.
I
20
should, yeah,
20th is the Friday before.
yeah.
If you met on the 20th, potentially you would circulate your final laptop choices maybe 5 to 10 days prior to that. And potentially get a motion in favor of a purchase so that when you got back or while you were away, whatever, I'm just sort of thinking out loud to end up having the new laptop available for the October church meeting. Or that might be pushing it a tad, I guess, but
Yeah, because that should be, I believe. That might not be till the 21st. But this October could be one of those strange months
right.
where the workshop is always the second Tuesday
Right,
and the meeting is the third Monday. And that puts the meeting more of 2 weeks from when the workshop is,
oh, okay, yeah,
because of the way the calendar.
Yeah. yeah,
And we've had that before.
right,
That'll be hard for everybody to understand if they stay with the third Monday, which it always has been. That pushes it to the 21st before we have the meeting,
right,
the board meeting.
Yeah. Well, would you like to meet then on September 20th?
I'd be okay. That is the day that I'm scheduled for my infusions, but I'm usually out of there and can be back here by 10.
Right. Jane, does that work for you?
Yep, I think so.
Okay, Andrew? Okay, let's put that in there. I have to tell the office here, because I told them I wasn't sure we would have a meeting. Because they put out, I didn't realize it, but it looks like Jeff puts out the notices that go on the bulletin boards.
That's our primary communications platform.
Okay, any other issues for the good of the cause? Nope. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second,
Seconded.
meeting adjourned.
Thank you.